state institutions or the state governments found an opportunity of making profit. And what one finds is that not the state making profit, people in the state making profit. What you find is that your large number of private universities came into existence from 2001. Of course, in a state like Chhattisgarh, there were around 120 private universities came, and we had a former chairman of the UGC, Yashpal, very renowned person, an honorable person, passed away this year, 2018. And you'll find that he filed a case in the court, and 105 private institutions were struck down by the court by a single day. So you can imagine what was the quality of the private institutions that were coming up. But now there is a new trend that is coming in India. Unlike the private colleges which were established by not the elite groups, moneyed groups, but not elite groups in the states, now the major institutions or private universities are built by corporate sectors. You will find O.P. Jindal in the business, you will find Ambani's in the business, you will find many. So you will find all types of all types of corporate sector, and therefore this is a different dynamics that is operating in higher education in India today. Friends, you will find that why this change that is taking place, while the capitation fee colleges were based on the profit motivations, the private universities are based on prestige motivations, maximizing prestige. It is, even when you are a big industrialist, if you say that I am the chairman of the university of such and such, that gives a different credibility. I am not saying that they are forgetting about profits. They are corporate sector, so their primary motive is profit, but they are ready to wait patiently for 5 or 6 years to produce the profit. It is not like the capitation fee colleges where they wanted to make profit in the first year itself, So they have enough sources, they are ready to wait, and they are taking over most of the public functions that you are talking about. Last week, I was in Jain University in Bangalore. I was surprised to see, I had not seen this in the public institutions, 350 doctoral students and their supervisors, around 400, more than 400 people attending, research students and research teachers, supervisors, attending a conference which I had to address, So I find that previously, private universities were mostly teaching institutions. Now, they are also becoming research institutions because they find that if you want to have credibility, you want to have an arrangement whereby there is research that is taking place. Friends, this is my advice and suggestion to you. Any teacher who is doing research is more respected than any teacher who is not doing research, even among our milieu. So I am not talking research for improving the academic credibility of the institutions alone, which certainly will improve. I am talking about research and linking research with the teaching, also for changing your own image as a teacher, as a faculty member, that is, that in your interactions with the students, So that is very important one. So this century in India found a massive explosion of student numbers and institutions. We find that the expansion that has taken place in India is 3 times in this century in terms of GER, from 8% to more than 25%. And in terms of enrollment, from 8 million to around 36 million, is something that did not happen in the first 53 years of our independence, has happened in the last 13 years of our development. And this contribution is by the private sector. And as I told you, the private sector, there are parts which are different. And let me also say that, you know that the private sector in education in India cannot produce profit. You know that? We talk about profitability of the institution, but they cannot produce profit. Universities are non-profit producing organizations, but you can produce a surplus. So you should understand this technical difference between the surplus and profit, because surplus is to be replowed to the sector, whereas profit you have to pay tax. and if you pay tax and you produce profit, then you cannot be registered under the Universities Act. So then you cannot be called as a university. You have to be registered under the Companies Act, which produces profit. There are certain nitty-gritties, but I am not saying that private institutions are not making profit. Don't misunderstand me. But what I mean to say is that there are two types of institutions that you find: for-profit private institutions and other institutions, not for-profit private higher education institutions. This is the way the changes are taking place. Friends, given my time, let me take another 10 minutes on two other issues which I want to say. One of the major changes that we find in higher education today in India is some of the new initiatives. The new initiatives in India. One, whether we should have UGC or not. This is a question. I think the ministry has already decided. Do you remember? What is the name of the new institution that is coming up? HECI. Higher Education Commission of India. HECI. HECI. No, that is different. That's a different initiative. So one is, we don't need a UGC. But UGC, why we don't need a UGC? Because UGC is doing dual functions of giving money and making quality control. Everybody says that UGC failed on both counts. UGC could not give money because the government did not give the money. The internal story of UGC is that, roughly, don't quote me outside, it says that UGC gets only 10,000 crores of rupees annually now. So a part of that, around 6,000 crores is going as the transfer to central universities, and another 1,500 is going to places like yours, where the colleges, affiliated colleges is not too much in the central universities. Only Delhi has the largest number of affiliated colleges, and Banaras Hindu University has 4 colleges which are affiliated, constituent or affiliated colleges. Delhi University has both constituent and affiliated colleges. Then $1,500 as 1,500 Indian rupees will be going for student fellowships. That is something that has been encouraged and given a large priority. Then what is left? 1,000 plus crores, what we call as a UGC, which is leading such a mammoth sector or a system in the country, is managed by that. In between, there was another new initiative, what is called as RUSA. Have you heard about it? Rashtriya Uchchatar Shiksha Abhiyan, RUSA. And you find that this is taken away from the UGC. It is not with the UGC, it is a direct funding, it is a centrally sponsored scheme. On the one hand, we say that we give autonomy. On the one hand, we say that we are decentralizing it. But when it comes to the funding and RUSA and other things, it is emerging mostly as a centrally sponsored scheme. The third dimension is that what we call as the HEFA, Higher Education Financing Agency. What does that mean? HEFA means that you are most welcome to take loan. Government has created a loan scheme, not for the students, but for the institutions. Scheme for loans, and with the Canara Bank, 100,000 crores. That means 1 lakh crores of rupees can be taken as loan by the universities. And the universities should take the loan and repay the capital amount, but they will be in a position to provide the interest-free loans to these institutions. So that is another change that is taking place. Sir, come and sit here, sir. Please. Change that is a fourth change, that is what is called as the graded autonomy. You might have read in the newspaper. What does graded autonomy mean? There are 3 categories of institutions: Category 1, Category 2 and Category 3 institutions. Category 1 institutions are those which are having in accreditation, NAC accreditation, a score of 3.5 and above. Category 2 institutions is 3.25 to 3.5, and where you find that these institutions are more autonomous whereas other institutions will be more under the control of the government, you know. So these are 3-4 important changes that are brought about in the recent past. Let me end by taking another 5 minutes on 2 or 3 issues. The major challenge facing teaching learning process in higher education is that whether we want to have surface learning or whether we want to focus on deep learning. And when you talk about undergraduate education and graduate education, which means postgraduate education, the basic difference comes from this. What is the type, what is the nature of change that you are expecting? Because one thing that higher education sector has not recognized adequately and certainly not internalized is that the factor of student diversity. The expansion that has taken place and the massification that has taken place in India has brought to higher education institutions and to the classrooms students who are from the deprived groups, who are from the remote areas, whose first language or even second language is not English, in which the transactions take place. So the diversity issue is the major issue that is confronting the teacher. In some of the colleges, even in Delhi University colleges, you find that there is no language to teach. The teachers do not have language in the sense that the students come from different backgrounds and the teachers come from a different background, and whereby what was traditionally considered to be taken for granted is very different. If you go by the NSS data of 2007 and 2014, what one finds is that 73% of the students who are studying in the higher secondary educational institutions, private and unaided, they follow English medium. Whereas this percentage is less than half of that in the government colleges, government schools. So what is happening is that the public institutions are increasingly catering to the students coming from government schools, government senior secondary schools and government secondary schools, whose language proficiency is of a different variety than the language proficiency that you find in other cases and in the elite institutions. So there is a problem of language. What is the language in which classroom transactions can take place? The second one, the diversity itself. The teachers in the system, 66% of the teachers in the system are from the forward community or general category community, and more than 66% of the students in the system are from the poor, deprived, remote area, SC, ST, OBC community. Now, there is a cultural difference in the classrooms, there is a cultural difference in the universities. It is not only a question of teaching learning process, how they are treated. The most important issue that is being discussed is that discrimination issue. The most important issue that you have discussed today is more in terms of how do we develop an inclusive campus. I underline the word inclusive campus. That is, if you look at the history of those people who are committing suicide in higher education institutions, including in those in the best elite institutions, you will find that invariably they are from belonging either to the backward communities or disadvantaged groups or from the rural areas who could not cope with what we call as the elitism. So unless the teachers are ready to fight against the elitism that we create and nurture, I don't think that the teaching learning process in these universities and in these colleges can develop. We all belong to, unknowingly or knowingly, perpetuating that inequality, perpetuating that disadvantage, and this goes against those students who are coming from the certainly from the disadvantaged groups, you know. Certainly that is an important one. Now, the third dimension is the technology. In many institutions, what is happening is that the students in terms of information are more advanced than the teachers in the classroom on many issues. I am not generalizing everywhere. Students are more technology savvy and information is only a click away. This is putting the teachers into a different type of challenge and a different way of interacting with that. How do we negotiate the technological dimensions in a classroom situation where the classroom itself is diverse, you know? Is a big challenge, that one. Let me end by saying that one of the major issues that you are facing, which is not stated in many places, but our empirical studies conducted in our research center has come out with, is that one finds that many a time what he called sometimes as entrepreneurial students. Today's student wants to read and learn only what he or she wants. What he or she wants. Not ready to listen to the structured syllabus and they say that if you want to get a degree, you have to study all this. No, I'm not interested in this. I am interested in only this. And you will find that the new changes that are taking place, 20% through Swayam, MOOC Swayam, and then the what is it? CBCS, etc. also giving this opportunity for students to be more flexible. So we have an inflexible teacher and a flexible student. We have a teacher whose language competency cannot compete with the students because they come from the diverse institutions. So language becomes an issue. We have a cultural capital that is coming to the classroom is very different and substantially very different from the cultural capital that used to be there in the 1950s, 60s and 70s when the system was elite. And we find the students who are entrepreneurial, who wants to learn only what they want to learn, not what the university prescribes or not what the teacher wants to teach. So the challenge is that you want to teach what you want to teach, or you want to teach what the students want to learn. That is the challenge in teaching learning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Verghese, for appropriately decoding the changing dynamics of higher education in the international arena as well as in the Indian context. These are very valuable remarks and a very appropriate beginning for this faculty development program. Now we have among us Professor Ashwini Mahapatra, who is our guest of honor for the inaugural session. Professor Mahapatra is in the School of International Studies, JNU. He has successfully guided research works of PhD and MPhil scholars. He has also published a number of research papers and articles in refereed journals, edited volumes and periodicals, and in the leading newspapers of the country. He has presented over 100 seminar papers, special lectures, keynote and valedictory addresses. He was also the visiting professor of Chao University, Tokyo, Japan, 2009. He has been the visiting fellow to Meissen University in France, 2008, as well as the European Union. In addition, he has visited several universities and research institutes in Bangladesh, Egypt, Finland, Germany, and other countries. Professor Mahapatra was appointed in 2017 as member of the Council of Indian Social Sciences Research, New Delhi, for a period of 3 years. He was also nominated in March 2018 as member of the Society of Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad Institute of Asian Studies, Kolkata. He is also the member of our Shamlal College governing body. He has been the member of the Institutional Advisory Board, Departmental Advisory Board of the NCERT New Delhi, Executive Council, member of Punjab Central University, and he has other achievements to his credit. We welcome you, sir, to the Faculty Development Program. I would request Dr. Alka Sharma and our principal, Professor Ravi Narayankar, to formally welcome sir with a token of appreciation from our side. For the inaugural session, we also have among us Professor A.K. Bakshi, who is presently the founder, Vice Chancellor of PDM University, Bahadurgarh, Haryana. He has been Sir Shankar Lal Professor of Chemistry at University of Delhi during 1996 to 2017. He was the Executive Director of Tertiary Education Commission, Mauritius, during 2013 and 2015. Professor Bakshi is also the chairman of Center of E-Learning, Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center, a center of MHRD. and National Resource Center of Chemistry of the MHRD. Professor Bakshi has also been chairperson of National Science Digital Library Project in Chemistry of the CSIR. Professor Bakshi has also been a member of the Standing Committee of the National Mission on Education through ICT of the Government of India. He is a double gold medalist of Delhi University and has done his postdoctoral training at the University of Langen-Nuremberg, Germany. His research interests include theoretical polymer chemistry and other wide-ranging areas. He has been recipient of several awards and academic honors. Some of them are World Education Award, Haryana Ratan Award, and Bharat Jyoti Award, among others. So we welcome you to our faculty development program, and I request our principal sir and Alka ma'am to felicitate sir. I would request Professor Ashwini Mahapatra, who is a special guest of the session, to address the audience.
At the very outset, I would like to express my gratitude to the principal of Shyamlal College and Dr. Tiwari for having persistently convincing me to come and deliver the lecture to the participants in the program, week-long program, capacity building program. And I was just inquiring how many of you, the participants here, happen to be from social sciences. Because my lecture will be mostly focused on the social science and how social science disciplines of late have moved from kind of disciplinary autonomy to interdisciplinary, and from interdisciplinary, what you have mentioned in your concept of the cross-disciplinary. Now it has moved to a different realm known as the transdisciplinary in social sciences. And the second part is, because I just browsed through the concept notice last night, much of the writing is about the pedagogy and pedagogical models and what is our understanding. Because when I read this terminology, it reminded me of the book that I read in my MA days in School of International Studies, JNU. It was a very popular book that time, Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Most of you must be familiar with this. Published in 1968 by a Brazilian scholar. And it's how many years now? It's more than 50 years. If you read the book again, including the latest book by him, by a scholar, published in 1998 on the critical consciousness. So the entire concept of pedagogy is, our normal understanding is confined to teaching methods or the skills of communicating to the students in the classroom. And if you will just dissect it, you'll find the three dimensions of pedagogy. It's not simply confined to interaction between teacher and taught. You have three aspects of it. One is the model, second is the method or the strategy, and third is the product. Okay. So this much of the lecture is focusing on, say, either methodology, model, that is the constructivist model or this class management model. But here I'm talking about the product part of it. The product has much to do with the research output, the quality product. Because the teacher can deliver on the basis of the teacher's experience and reading of literature pertaining to particular subject. So what is important for us here to know is, what is the job of the ultimate objective of a teacher beyond the classroom teaching is either to reinforce specific idea, understanding, ideal, or simply to open up the scope by highlighting a range of possibilities, either to contest whatever is established, whatever is available to you, and explore the alternative. Then all this exercise basically is intended with two objectives. It has two main objectives. One is, when you do the research, it's called the speculative intellect. And second is the practical intellect. Speculative intellect has much to do with your philosophy part of it, the broader understanding of the world. And the practical intellect basically deals with your research output which contribute to the policy making process, policy implementation, and the policy assessment. So social science, which includes all the disciplines, okay, because if you study social science, much of the discipline of late emerges autonomous. And in the wake of the globalization, you don't find it's difficult to categorize sociology, political science, economics, psychology, this or kind of compartmentalization discipline. So disciplinary autonomy is first eroding. Instead, what we have today is an interdisciplinary approach. You take up any policy, whether it's skill development program, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, these are all basically inclusive of all the social science disciplines. Even appears to be one, focusing, for example, the societal aspect of the sociology or economics. But in a study, basically, you go to do the research, then you have to do a kind of multidimensional research. Because social science is something which cannot be based simply on the collection of raw data. Because here it aims at studying the attitude and behavior of the individual human being. So that behavior in human beings changes depending on the context, depending on the agency that is supposed to interact with. So it doesn't have the same response, this identical response, same stimuli in all the contexts, in all these, under all conditions. So thereby, when you look at the speculative part of it, it's very important for us because speculative intellect helps in building up certain paradigm or idea, narrative about society. Then when it comes to practical intellect, here the social science scientists through the research can contribute to the appropriate policy formulation, one. Number two, highlighting the scope and the limitation of the policy formulation. And the third is the evaluation of the policy process and the policy output. Let me begin with the first part. The first and second are interconnected. What is happening today in social science is the social science research output have little to do with the policy formulation or the policy process of the government. So we pick up all this abstract idea of the issues for our research, which invariably, or more often than not, have nothing to do with the kind of appropriate policies that the society needs or the state needs for its development. Right. Second aspect is, that's one major limitation. Second is, when you look at this philosophical aspect of it, you will find a lot of ideas, and these ideas we have accepted it consciously, unconsciously, and imbibed it because we have been rotoing it, we have been reading it again and again, accepting it as the ultimate truth. One. Number two, I'm coming to the real issue. I'll leave it for you to reflect on it. You may agree, may not agree. Whether it is an idea about state, about nation, about community, about even, it's a big idea of Bharat, India, for example. So you'll find these are fixed ideas, narratives, we have accepted it. And the narratives we have accepted, we have also, in a way, mentally internalized it. That's what my country is all about. Without ever contesting or exploring an alternative explanation, alternative narrative. This is one. Number two is social science, which invariably claim being social science student is a science, quote unquote science. My colleagues from chemistry may contest it. Is it a science? It was sought to be made as a science by the empiricist by basing social science research on simply raw data collection. But then, in the post-behavioralist phase, you find the kind of contestation of the scientific component or the characteristic of social science. Then, by the end of, say, last century, we entered a different realm where from the deductive inductive methodology, we moved on to interpretivist methodology, interpreting everything whatever is available to us. We borrowed from the linguistic, which is known as the hermeneutics. Hermeneutics basically talks about the stories, life stories, narratives. And here comes the real problem here regarding the speculative intellect. We have certain narratives presented to us by well-known, renowned, well-established, highly acclaimed band of scholars. Hardly any of us ever questioned their credibility. They have sought the certification from the West, and the West has given us social science as a science. What is this major characteristic of science is the universality, or its universal acceptance and applicability. I leave it to you. Do you think social science, which had its origin in 17th century Europe, is really universal? Can it claim the universalist status? How can it? The whole social science discipline emerged in the post-enlightenment period based on the